My name is Leo, and I'm a clinical therapist and educator. What does Black mean to me? Being Black isn't about a single narrative. I think it's multiple narrative, multiple stories. So for me, it means experiences of oppression, but also experiences of resistance. Toronto is quite diverse, and my experiences thus far has been great. I am aware of the systemic oppression. I'm aware of how we're being viewed by some in the dominant culture, but my experiences thus far has been quite phenomenal.
My name is Pastor Dave Lewis-Peart. I am a minister and a community worker. What does being Black mean for me? I think it's a shared history, not of just enslavement and colonialization, but just like the connection to the continent, connection to Africa, connection to each other, to spirit. Being Black for me is that. What it means to be Black in the Greater Toronto area, I think that's an evolving thing for me. I think my Blackness in relation to everyone else in, as Leo said, this really diverse city has me constantly reevaluating what it means to be Black. And what I would have said 10 years ago is very different than what I would have said 5 minutes ago and what I would likely say 5 minutes from now. Yeah, it's hard to sort of pin down exactly in this kind of city, you know?
Being an immigrant from Grenada, coming here as a student, I've had a good experience here in terms of my career, in terms of my education, in terms of even the social circles that I've met. That has been quite positive.
My experience as a Black person in the city is an evolving one and context specific. I know that I've had a really more positive experience than many have, and I know that a lot of that has to do with my social location and particular privileges. You know, I don't live in the projects, and I don't have certain challenges, but I've also experienced blatant racism and discrimination, and so I think while I'm not immune to sort of the negative effects of being Black, I think class and social status have allowed me to be at least partially buffered from how difficult it can be for so many of us.
Being here has expanded my worldview in terms of differences across the spectrum. So differences not only in terms of race, but differences in terms of gender identity, religious differences. So my worldview has expanded, and so I think that's a great achievement. I think that's beautiful when you're able to engage with various communities, various cultures, and understand where they're coming from and their experiences.
I know that being part of the LGBT spectrum community also changes the way that I experience my Blackness in this city. The circles that I run in are really diverse, are really, really diverse in terms of race, culture, religion. And so I don't know, and that's why I said it's such a contextual thing and an ever-evolving thing, because there were points and periods in my life where I actually really wasn't super conscious of my Blackness.
Right.
And then others where I really, really was. And I think that only Toronto can afford that, because I know a lot of other people who were raised in very different environments where their Blackness is not something they can forget, and others who don't really give it too much thought. And so I know that's a bit of an ambiguous answer, but I think that's my relationship to my race.
In terms of experiences of a Black person around gender identity, yes, we are already marginalized based on our race, but even within our community there is marginalization around sexual identity, lesbian, gay, trans, people of color. And so I'm quite passionate about how our race and our gender intersect to create experiences. So within our own community, though we are marginalized from dominant Canada, we still do have a lot of work to do in terms of the marginalization and the otherness that we place on persons that are not heterosexual within our own Black community.
Growing up, race was not something that I was super conscious of or exposed to we just were. I think it was going to school and engaging with other people. The class that I was in, I remember dealing with a lot of students who would come in from smaller towns or from other parts of the province or the country, and then sort of having to deal with race a lot more. And it was during my post-secondary experience that I really began to get really conscious of race and the impacts of race in the city and racism and oppressions. And prior to that, I don't think I was as invested in really critically thinking about my race. You know, my first really realization about that was grade 4, maybe, and I had a crush on this girl, Melanie, this really, really cute blonde girl, and we had become quote-unquote boyfriend and girlfriend in the class. And my mother had thrown a big party for the class for my birthday, a big pool party, and Melanie and her father came out to that pool party, and just shortly after, she had a birthday party. And when I asked where my invitation was, she told me, my dad told me that I'm not really allowed to invite you. And I said, well, why? Because we don't like black people. And I know that seems like a really sort of funny thing, but I think it was then that I was like, oh, I think before that I didn't really give too much thought to my race and the impacts of other people's attitudes about it.
Born and raised in Grenada, I've always known that I'm black, I'm African Caribbean. I realized that it meant something different in a Canadian context shortly after I moved here for school, and that realization came about through discourse I would have had with persons from the dominant culture. So, and the differential treatment that was quite evident. And when that happened, I was aware that being in black skin, being wrapped in black skin meant something very different